Welcome to Building Birmingham Together, a show about Birmingham's business leaders, successes, failures, and lessons learned to encourage you to remember that dreaming is free, but the hustle is sold separately. I'm your host, Kim Lee, founder and CEO of Forge. Building Birmingham Together is brought to you today by Forge. Forge is Birmingham's first professional co-working space located in the heart of downtown Birmingham at the Pizitz Building. With private offices, open workspace, as well as meeting and event space, Forge is the place where small business owners and entrepreneurs come together, meet new people, and get work done. If you would like to find out more about Forge, you can visit workatforge.com and schedule your tour directly on our website. Today, I'm very excited to have Matt Pierce on Building Birmingham Together. Matt is the founder and CEO of Immediate. Immediate helps businesses recruit, engage, and retain employees by providing a financial wellness solution that delivers on-demand access to earned wages. I just recently met Matt through another guest that I will have on this podcast in the next month or so. And after our initial interview, he told me that I had to meet Matt because he was doing amazing things with Immediate. And he was right. So I cannot wait to share with you the story of Immediate today because they are totally shaking up the system on how people can access money that they have earned. Now, on the surface, it maybe doesn't seem like it's really that revolutionary, but the product that Matt and his team have created actually has potential to change the financial trajectory of a family for generations. So I get really excited about these things that can have such impact for change. So Matt, I'm so excited to have you today. Thank you for being on Building Birmingham Together.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for the introduction. That was really, really nice. We feel the same way. We're excited about the impact we can have.
I know. So after talking today, after yesterday, we talked about what we would be talking about today, and I learned all about Immediate. So it's just amazing. I can't wait to share your story. But why don't you just if you'll give just a brief, I know that's asking a lot, but a brief snapshot of what Immediate is, and then I would love to get into your story about how Immediate came to be.
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head with the intro. We are a voluntary financial wellness benefit. So we go in and partner with employers to offer our earned wage access solution to their team. So to your point, and really what we're doing is we're trying to give employees a responsible alternative to the predatory lenders and running up credit card debt, writing bad checks, all the alternatives out there if I find myself in a financial pinch in between paydays. So that's what we've built our business on. There's a lot more that's coming down the pike around just holistic financial wellness and helping people make better financial decisions and improving their their financial trajectory. And this is really kind of the start of it here was with what we originally called on-demand pay and has now been coined earned wage access.
So I want to go back because there is so much that you have to share about why what you're doing is so great. But I'd love to go back and hear the story of how Immediate came to be, because I think through that you share your passion of what you're really doing with Immediate. So you didn't start out trying to solve financial solutions. So tell us a little bit about your journey of getting to where you are today.
Yeah, the path is always very interesting. I think probably most people have seen the image out there where it's like, people think that the entrepreneur journey is just like this up and to the right, and when it's really like all these squiggly lines,
yes.
and you hope it ends up and to the right. We went through that. We actually started, my partners and I have healthcare technology backgrounds. And so we actually started in 2017 building a home health and home care scheduling platform. I personally had some really negative experiences with in-home caregivers not showing up or being late or overbilling us. And I just remember having that thought of how in 2017 can't we do this better, right? And so we kind of set out to build a caregiver transparency where it would GPS triangulate where a caregiver was when they were supposed to be at home and flag it if they were clocking in early, or if they were late, it would notify a family member. And so we went out with a really rudimentary prototype and started selling that to mom and pop home care agencies. And we're having some modest success. It was a side hustle. We all still had jobs, and we were doing this, just going, well, let's figure out. We really see this healthcare world going into the post-acute setting, and I think at a certain
because that is a
point,
big need for families
huge.
who are trying to, they think they have somebody taking care of their parent or loved one and make plans, have to go to work, and then that person doesn't show up. I mean, so it's a huge need to be addressed.
It absolutely is. And there's an economic burden on our country of unpaid family caregivers, people that are pulled out of the workforce to take care of their aging family members.
Right.
And this is something that we felt would enable companies to provide a better, more transparent service. Interestingly enough, a really quick side note is, since we started that, and actually since we pivoted away into immediate in the past couple of years, multiple states have actually mandated the use of what's called electronic verification. So, we were a little ahead of our time.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because we at a certain point, I think I got tired of hitting singles, right? Like, hey, 30 employees here, 40 employees here. Let's go for a big one. And I finagled my way in front of an agency director of a 1,500 employee company, and I gave my presentation, and I got done, starry-eyed, thinking this was going to be the
nailed
the
it,
big one, right? And she goes, you're just putting a Band-Aid on my problem, right? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, she goes, all of the things you're talking about are an outcome of what my bigger issue is, which is turnover. I employ 1,500 people, and I have 60% turnover every year. 900 people a year are going to churn through my business. So every Monday morning, I'm training 20 to 40 new people.
Yeah.
And she said, so the reason people aren't clocking in when they get to your grandmom's house or doing it the right way is because they're new. And in a lot of cases, what will happen is somebody will find another job offer, across town, closer to home, or where they're not having to drive. This was in Atlanta, where they're not having to sit in traffic for 45 minutes to go work a 4-hour shift and make $40, And so she said, I think if you can help solve my retention issue, then the trickle down starts to create less issues where you're talking about. So how do we do that? And she said, it's really easy. It's money. So I'm a technology guy. How can I solve that for you, right? And she goes, well, help me figure out how to pay my people at the end of a shift. And I go, well, that's interesting. And so the timing of it was just really great, that conversation. I mean, I walked out kind of a little defeated, and I just happened to have lunch with a mentor of mine a couple of days later, and I was actually pitching him to invest in that company. And he said, well, tell me about your nose, which is a great question to ask if you're thinking about investing in a company. Tell me about your nose, because you can learn a lot. And for us, it altered the trajectory of where we were headed. That conversation, I said, man, I just got a really interesting no last week. And we explained what I just explained to you. And he said, how many people live paycheck to paycheck in the US? I don't know, just Google it. 78%. 4 out of 5 people in our country live paycheck to paycheck. And he said, how many people are in the US workforce? 160 million. And he goes, so if 4 out of 5 of those 160 million are living paycheck to paycheck, that is a huge opportunity. He goes, how many home care agencies are there? And I said, 30,000. He goes, so do you want to keep going after maybe a nice to have for 30,000 home care agencies, or a painkiller for 4 out of 5 Americans? And I said, well, yeah, that's the big one. And he goes, let's go do that. And so we spent the next 2 or 3 months really just researching what this would entail. And what we ended up finding out was, if we went out and just said, hey, Kim, you just finished working a shift, we're going to give you some money to play with. We're a lender. But if we go out and we integrate with your payroll system and your time tracking system, and when you clock out today at 5 p.m., you go, hey, it's Tuesday, and I just clocked out. I've worked 16 hours so far this week, and I make $20 an hour. You've earned $320. It's your money. It's just caught up in this pay cycle, right? And so what we've done is, through that integration, what we figured out and what we spent a lot of money with attorneys to help us figure out was if we could connect to those time tracking systems, we could prove that that's now your money and we can give you access to that money. Now, what we had to do in the background is we had to go out and raise some money, raise some funds that we could actually load people's accounts up. So if you went in and said, well, I need $100, we could transfer you $100. And then through an integration with your payroll system and the normal process of a paycheck, we can get reimbursed the same way that a 401k or health insurance deduction happens. We can get reimbursed that $100 that we gave you access to. And so that's what we spent months kind of figuring out and making sure we can check all those boxes. And once we established that, that's kind of the genesis of the company.
Okay, I'm going to interject for a second. So you talked about you're getting your money that you've earned. So, for people who haven't thought about it as much as you, how is that different from the other alternative, from what's available right now?
Yeah, so today people typically turn to one of four places if you find yourself in a pinch. Let's say payday is next Friday, and you walk out today and you got a flat tire. You need $125. First place people usually turn is friends and family, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, I need $100. Can you loan me $100? That usually works the first time or two, and then if you don't pay them back, you kind of burn that bridge. Mm-hmm. So the second place people turn to is has a big asterisk by it. It's the assumption that you have good enough credit to get a credit card, and you run up credit card debt, right? The average American has, this is pre-COVID, I don't know what the number is today. Average American pre-COVID has $8,800 in credit card debt, over $1 trillion in credit card debt in the U.S., right? So I can put it on my credit card and, hey, I know I don't have the money right now, but I'm going to put it on my credit card and hope I can pay it off, or pay it off the percentage of the APR that's usually, the average APR right now is around 20%. In some cases with bad credit, it's over 30%. The third option is I could write a bad check. I know that I don't have the money in my checking account, but I gotta have this tire fixed. I'm gonna write a $125 check and know that it's gonna bounce when it gets to the bank, and I'm gonna pay the $35 NSF on top of it, right? So that's gonna cost me $125 plus the 35. Well, I'll pay the $160, right? The fourth and the worst option are the predatory lenders, the title and payday loans. Average title loan in the U.S., which is a collateralized loan, is a 300% APR. Which is essentially 25% a month, right? The average payday loan in the U.S. is 391% APR. In the state of Alabama, it's 456% APR. In states like Texas, it's 662% APR. So when you pull out this money, so I need $125, I go and get a $125 payday loan. Depending on how long, they're typically two-week loans. It usually takes me a minimum month to pay it back. It's the typical payday loan takes at least a month, and in some cases could take a full year. So if I pay back $125 in a month, it's going to cost me 391% divided by 12 months. It's going to cost me ballpark 36%. So $125 when I pay it back, $125 in principal plus 36% in interest. So 36% on 125 is ballpark $45. So it's going to cost me $125 plus $45, assuming I can pay it back, right?
In 1 month.
In 1 month.
And what if it takes a year?
It takes a year in the state of Alabama, 456% APR. So 125 times 4.5 is going to cost you $500, and wow. It's just an interest. So those are what those create is what we refer to as cycles of debt. Right. Yeah. And so I picture, and we've got this awesome slide that we use in our sales presentations. I picture the two paydays as the peaks of an income flow, right? Your income flow is like this, and the peaks are the days that you get paid. That's where you're going to have the most money. And what happens is with your cash flow, it immediately starts to go down, because when you get that on Friday, payday comes in, you go, I got to pay my rent. I got to pay some of my fixed bills. I got to keep my lights on. I have to keep my water on. And then I want to put some food on the table for me and my family, or put something in the fridge, or whatever it may be. And so it just slowly starts to go down. And at some point you find yourself in the valley, and it may be the day before the next payday, or it may be a week before. But what we do is we try to smooth out those peaks and valleys by giving people a responsible way to access their own earnings versus turning to those predatory lenders. Because what happens is, if I take out a $125 payday loan, the average payday loan is $318. So typically people aren't pulling out $125, but let's just say I take out a $125 payday loan. when I get my paycheck, the first thing I'm going to do, if I'm smart and if I'm trying to get out of debt, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pay back as much of that loan as I can, which
Right.
then reduces the amount of money that I have for my fixed expenses, which gets me down to the trough, to the valley more quickly. And I find myself in more need. What typically happens is that cycle. I turn to another payday loan. I turn to another, run up more credit card debt. And so it just creates this ongoing where I'm always, especially if I'm 4 out of 5 people living paycheck to paycheck, I'm always just waiting for that next payday and trying to make ends meet. And so we really are just trying to be this conduit that helps shorten some of those cycles and put money back in people's pockets when they need it the most.
Yep. So I want to get back into some other questions, but I still want to continue to flesh out what you're doing. And then we'll get into some of the, the whys and hows. But so how do y'all do that? How do you give them that access? What does it look like compared to, so we know what it looks like to go to a payday loan, but say what the company offers this immediate option, how does that work for them? And there's got to be some expense, there's got to be some cost. So what's the cost?
For sure. Yeah, we've actually built what's called the Immediate Pay app. And what we do is, as part of our onboarding, is we go in and we connect our app and our platform to the time tracking and payroll system. So the earlier example, today I've earned $320. What we do is we work with an employer in onboarding to establish thresholds. We like to call them guardrails, right? We believe that if you're going to give people more access to the money, there needs to be some guardrails in place. So we don't go higher than 50% of earned pay. So if you've made 320, you've got 160 that's available. We don't go higher than $250 per transaction, and we don't like to go higher than 3 transactions per pay period. An employer can lower any of those thresholds, but those are kind of the ceilings, right? And we do that so we don't get into taxes and withholdings, and we don't want to get in a spot where, the peaks and valleys I talked about, we don't want to invert those to where somebody pulls all their money out on Wednesday and they don't have a paycheck left on Friday. So we kind of put some of those thresholds in place to protect them. And what our average user does, our average user makes 2 transactions in a biweekly pay period. And those transactions, I think the first one's usually about 12 days prior to payday. So it's interesting, right? You get paid on a Friday, and usually by that Sunday or Monday, people may go in and make once they've started to earn some more money, they go in and make a small transaction. This first one, interestingly enough, is usually a smaller transaction. As you get closer to payday, there's usually in the trough, right? 7 or 8 days prior to payday, they make another transaction. That's usually a little bit bigger. The average transaction size in January was $118. So our average user pulls out $118. Now what happens there is, if I go into the Immediate Pay app and say, I need $118, we give them 3 options of where to send their money. The first option is into their bank account. So we can send money directly into a bank account. We use the Federal Reserve's payment rails to do that, which is typically tomorrow. And that's just because of the way that the Nacha engine works. So if you need money, you've got a bill that's due and you need money in your bank account so you can process the bill pay tomorrow, then we can move it directly into your bank account. The second option is if you have a bank issued debit card, Visa or MasterCard. We've partnered with both. We can put money onto 97% of all debit cards in the US. We can move money on those cards onto your card within minutes. Legally, we have to say within minutes. I can tell you that last month, our average transaction time onto a Visa card was 12 seconds, which is pretty awesome.
Pretty
right?
fast. Yeah.
Anytime of the day or night. It could be, Sunday morning and I'm walking out to go to church and I go, man, I need $20 to put gas in my tank, and I can get money onto my debit card. The third option is we actually have a debit card that we issue, and we can send them a debit card and they would have their own debit card, similar transaction time. Any time of the day or night, they can get money within minutes. So when you go in and you see, I need $118, and you select where it's going to go, we charge what we call an early access fee. And that fee is just like an ATM. It's never more than $3. So we have a model that we call 3 to free. So it's $3 the first time in a pay period someone makes a transaction, $2 the second time, and if they make a third transaction, it's free. So they'll never pay more than $5 in any one pay period. So I can give you
$5 compared to
the usurious rates that you're going to find with payday loans. I can give you the math, and I know this not because I'm a Rain Man with math, but because I've got a slide like this that I present. Right. So if you pulled out a $250 payday loan, and the payback on average is 36%. It takes you a month. That $250, when you pay it back, will cost you $90 in fees.
Okay.
You can pull out up to $250 with immediate per transaction. And so if I'd earned $500 or more for the 50% threshold, $500 or more, I'll pull out $250, cost you $3. So the difference, obviously, $87. Now, what I always like to point out is how impactful this is in the grand scheme of things. Because you go, well, $87, that's a lot. But so let's look at the average payday loan recipient makes $30,000 a year. After taxes, let's just say 20%, they're going to go home with $24,000. If I replaced one payday loan a month of $250 with using immediate pay once a month for $3, $87 a month, extrapolated out 12 months, it's $1,044. It's 5% of take-home pay. 5% of take-home pay. If you, I mean, it's so that's where when we make statements like this is life-changing, or this can alter generational income levels and paths. It really is that impactful. And so we're like in the support tickets that we receive sometimes that are really just like thank you notes.
Yeah.
Where people go, I had my water cut off on a Tuesday night, and I came home and the water people were still in the neighborhood. And I tracked them down. And they said, if you can pay your bill while we're still in the neighborhood, we'll come flip it back on for you. Payday's Friday. I can't wait until then. So we'll come back on Friday. So they literally get on the immediate pay app, drop it onto a debit card, called in, paid their account, went and got them, and they said, oh, been paid. They came back and flipped their water on. They had water for the week. Little things like that truly is. I mean, those are the anecdotal stories that we didn't expect early on.
I mean, I don't know why the water story, but I've already heard these stories, and that just brings tears to my eyes because like, can you imagine being a parent and they're literally going to turn your water off and you have to tell your kids, I'm sorry, we don't have water for 2 days. And who knows how people got in that situation. I can't believe I'm emotional about this, but just the dignity and I just think it's pretty great.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, it's nothing to be sorry about. There are waterworks and goosebumps around this place all the time. I don't want to add to the emotions, but I'll tell you, one of the most impactful stories we had, and not at liberty to get into too many of the details, but there was a story of someone who called in after hours, who had a bench warrant out for their arrest due to a variety of factors, but it really boiled down to they missed a court date. And they missed a court date because it was a single parent and they couldn't find a sitter, and they said, I'll deal with it. And they thought, I'll deal with it later. And that turned into, well, they didn't show up, so we're going to issue a warrant for their arrest. And they were notified the day before. This was a bench warrant. You have until midnight, similar to the water story. And they called in after hours, and someone on our support team took the call, and they did not have a debit card added in their wallet. And they said, I got 2 kids and they're going to be taken into child services if I'm arrested tomorrow. And so our support person talked them through how to add a debit card into their wallet and transacted money. While they were on the phone, she refreshed her bank account, saw that she had the money in her account, and she said, I could jump through this phone and give you a hug right now. And she said, you just kept my family together. And I mean, I do. I get goosebumps every time I tell that story, because that is, I mean, like go back to the beginning of this conversation. We started this because a company said, I need help reducing my turnover, right?
Right.
And then you fast forward out 2 years, and here we are keeping a family together because of $120.
Yeah. It's money that they've already earned. Like, it's their money. They just previously didn't have access to it.
Right. Absolutely. And so it really is something that we are a mission-driven organization. We believe that we're going to go above and beyond to take care of people and help them make better financial decisions and put guardrails in place, right? We don't believe in this unbridled access to money. I personally don't think people need to get paid every day. I believe that when you do that, it puts you in a spot where you don't have to have as much. you don't have to be as focused on saving and spending the right places and doing the right things, right? And so what we do is we put those guardrails in place. We try to help people make better decisions. So when they find themselves in need, they go, do I really need this $50? Or it's going to cost me $3, but if I wait until Thursday, I could get $125 and it costs me $3. That's the better financial decision to make, right? So we're really trying to help improve people. We have financial education materials, financial calculators. We have about 25 different calculators and probably 30 or 40 different financial education literacy, budgeting 101, how to use credit cards wisely. There's all sorts of educational content inside our platform, as well as we even just recently offered a prescription savings where the average American spends $1,200 a year on prescriptions. And we have a platform now that allows people to save on average 60% on their out-of-pocket drug expenses. So if I'm spending $1,200 a year on prescriptions and I can save 60%, it's $700. It's back into my pocket. So little things like that we can do to try to help people, one, save and not find themselves in these bonds of debt, but two, try to get back on the right financial path.
Yeah. So, okay, you're clearly very passionate about finances and helping people get, to financial freedom or financial literacy so that they can provide for their family and get on the right path. But that's not where your passion started. So how did you make this shift? Like how was it going through? Like, did you feel like you were letting yourself down, or what did you do with that old desire? How did you get this passionate about what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. It was, I particularly wrestled with that. Starting a business out of a need because of something that had impacted my life, and then going, well, that's impactful, but here's this thing that could impact so many more people. Mm-hmm. And I think I convinced myself that if this works, and quite candidly, with some of our early focus, it was in the post-acute senior living and home health, home care. Those were some of our early contacts and customers. So I did feel like we are helping improve patient care. Mm-hmm. And it's just more trickle down. It's not as direct of a focus. It's kind of the collateral, right? And so that helped, but it also, when we looked at this strictly from a impact perspective, the kind of impact you can have at this scale. When we talk about our goals and our mission, it's to positively impact the financial well-being of 1 million people over the next 3 years. To impact that 1 million people, the trickle down there is into their entire family and potentially generations to come, right? Like I kind of go back to when I was growing up. I was in a middle-class family. My stepfather loved Dave Ramsey. He didn't have any debt. The only debt was the mortgage, and it was, we're going to buy cars with cash. And so we'd buy cars that were 7 years old, but that were, Toyota Camrys and run right. And so those were the things that I learned. Those were the things that were instilled in me. A lot of people don't have that, right? Mm-mm. And a lot of people grow up in scenarios where when they see their parent in financial need, they turn to title loans, payday loans, credit card debt, writing bad checks. Bad checks can land you in jail, right? I mean, all these things, and that's what they see. And because of the circumstances, they view that as normal. Because of my circumstances, I viewed making good financial decisions normal. And mm-hmm. just to be really candid, my eyes were opened up when we started to research this early on and see the impact that we could have. And we felt like this is something where we can really leave a mark on this world. And not to say that we couldn't do that with just caregiver transparency and scheduling, but this was something where we felt like the impact we could have was on a much more grand scale. Mm-hmm. And then I think the passion that I have comes from this, from going from idea, like when people go, it's a great idea. And I go, it's not an idea anymore, right? Like 2 years
Yeah.
ago it was. 2 years ago it was a great idea. Now it's a great business. And now it's an impactful business. And it's something that is changing lives. And when I look at last year, there were millions of dollars that we put into people's bank accounts and debit cards that helped them not find themselves turning to these alternatives. And that to me is what, when I see that, it encourages me and excites me. And it says, we've got to get more. We've got to go impact more. And so there's a lot of things that we're doing right now. And there's a whiteboard right out here on our wall that has our top 5 or 10. And I mean, collectively, it's our top 10 collectively has almost 650,000 employees. And those are deals that we're actively working on. And I see that and I go, 600, it's daunting and it's scary, but it's exciting. And the kind of impact that we can have on, even if we close one of those, the kind of impact that we're going to have is just exponentially greater.
Yeah. Well, I still have so many questions that I want to ask you, and I want our listeners to stay engaged. So I can't just ask them all because it'd be too long. But so I'm trying to think. Okay, so I'm not going to allow you to talk a long time about this, but I do want to make sure that you are able to share this, because I think it's so great for people who are listening, who are employers, how it impacts them, like the benefit to them. Like, why should an employer say, okay, let's do this?
Yeah, the biggest thing for employers is it's recruitment and retention, right?
Yeah.
I believe, I'm an optimist, but I believe in the next decade, every company in the U.S. will offer earned wage access.
Mm.
I believe that it is something that is on the way. It's the same way as if, we were talking in 1998, and I said, I think in the next 10 years, everybody will be online, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and not just doing AOL Messenger or whatever it was, right?
The dial up.
Right. Yeah. The dial up. So I think that in the next decade, it's going to be ubiquitous. And so we are in a land grab, and we're going out and we're hustling and trying to get as many companies and people on this platform as possible right now. And so when we sit down and talk to employers, what I've found in conversations with C-level leadership, finance teams, HR teams, operations teams, most companies, not all. I've had a couple that I literally have said, I don't think you're going to be a good fit for us. I mean, like, I don't think you really care that much about your people. But it's I can tell you some stories, but most
Yeah.
of them, we sit down and start talking, and they want their employees to be taken care of. And because there is the trickle down, right? There's the same way that I talked about patient care being better. If we can reduce turnover, patient care should be better for home care, right. Physician practices, et cetera. If we can help alleviate some of the financial stress, the American Psychological Association for 9 straight years said the number one stressor in people's lives, financial stress. What do you think after last year? My gosh, it's probably like way up here and everything else is down here, right? My guess is people are probably more concerned with how can I make it in life financially right now than they are concerned about getting COVID. Like, yeah. That's the bigger thing, right? Like, I'm going to keep going to work so I can get a paycheck so I can stay alive. But even if I have to put myself out there in the potential that I'm going to get sick. So financial stress is the number one stressor. So if you can help employers understand that reducing some of that financial stress is going to actually have them more engaged at work, happier at work, ultimately it's going to lead to better outcomes, whether that's more sales because you've got a happier person that's at the checkout booth, happier wait staff at a restaurant, whatever, happier nurses that are less stressed out nurses that are taking care of patients. Those are the trickle downs that mental health that comes along with this is really what's going to help produce a better end result for those companies. So it is about recruitment and retention, but today a lot of the conversations we have, matter of fact, I had a conversation on Friday with a group, and I said, what would you view, if we fast forward out 6 months, what would you view as success from the time we launch? And he said, I want to very closely focus on the mental health of my team.
Mm.
And I said, I love it because we're going to create so much good if that's what you're looking for. We're literally taking burdens off of shoulders for people and allowing them to have more mental clarity and do a better job in their day-to-day activities because they're not having to worry as much. So that's how we position this with companies is recruitment, retention, and look, if you really care about your people, you've got to give them this responsible alternative because they're not coming to you and telling you when they're going to do payday loans. They're not coming to you and telling you when they're running up $1,000 on credit card debt for a new TV when they don't need it, right? They're when they find themselves in need. To your point earlier, Kim, it's the dignity of me not having to go in, close the door, and sit down and say, I'm in a real pickle and I just need a $200 pay advance. Can you do that? Because if the company does do that, it's a slippery slope and it's a lot to manage on the back end. If they don't do it and you don't give them this responsible alternative, you're throwing them out into the world and saying, hey, go run up title, go run up credit card debt, take title, payday loan, write a bad check, do all those things. And hey, by the way, when you come back to work tomorrow, wrap all that luggage around your shoulders and bring it back into the office with you because that's what happens. So
and I would go out on a limb and say 99% of employers don't want that burden on their people and on their employees, and they don't know that it's there. And if they can provide a way, and their employees are probably never going to come to them about it because they don't want to, they want to keep their job. They don't want to look like an employee that's a risk. But I do have to give this plug because you haven't said this yet. It's also at no cost to the company.
It is.
So what I love, so I am looking at you via Zoom, so the people listening to this podcast can't see it, but behind that is the logo of Immediate, and it's black and white, and it says "Life doesn't wait 2 weeks." Right? I can only see "Life does."
That's right. Yeah.
But it's all black and white because they want it to be like it really is that simple. And I just love that even in your logo, you have just made it so simple for people to help their employees have financial freedom or responsibility, and for employees to be able to get the money that you've earned that easy. I love it.
Yeah, when we first started, we were green and blue, and I don't remember what our initial logo, our initial slogan was. I can't remember. But it was green and blue because, green is money and blue is trust. And you're like, trust and money, that sounds great. It works well together. And then last year in March, literally the week before we went into lockdown, I was in Atlanta and I met with a branding agency. We're just kind of going through some stuff. And I went in for this meeting and he had printed out our top 5 competitors and put us, printed out the homepage, and all of us were green and blue. And I go, there's a trend. He goes, my opinion is that if you want to stick out, you don't need to be green or blue. And I said, okay. And I said, well, yeah, put something together. Let's see. And so they put together something really rudimentary to come back and present to us and said, if you want us to go deep on this, we can. And they came back and said, one of the things they interviewed tons of people in the company. They interviewed some of our customers. We went through this whole process, and they came back and said, what we keep hearing from everybody is how cut and dry it is, how straightforward it is. There's no hidden fees. There's nothing. It's free to the employer. There's no hidden fees for the user. You are who you say you are, and you do what you say you're going to do. And you know what that tells me? That everything is black and white. And it was like the unveiling of a statue. Yeah. Black and white immediate, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so we switched to black and white. It also, the other really nice thing is it saves money on like when printing. When we do printing, black and white.
We're black and white.
Yeah, it's the best way to go. It's like cards, business cards. It's all great, but we do have a couple of accent colors, which I think pop a little bit on the website and all that. But it's something that we really candidly, we probably don't point out enough. But everything we do is just trying to be in your face. We're talking to a company that's looking at moving off of migrating away from one of our competitors, and they said the reason is our door doesn't stop getting knocked on in HR and in payroll because of all the fees that they're charging. they say that they're doing this, and then they get their paycheck and they go, wait, why is it $20? Why did that come out? And and they said, and I said, well, hey, look, here's our customer list. Who do you want to talk to? Because all of them are going to tell you that it is this, and this. Those are the only things that people are going to get paid. It's $3, it's $2, or it's free, period. Right. And now, in order to be financially successful in the long run, we're fortunate enough to have really, really good investors that support our mission or standing behind us. In the long run, it is a volume play. We have to get to a lot of people in order for those 3 to free for us to hit better pricing on the back end, where we can actually start to, turn a profit at some point, and things of that nature. But that's something that we are committed to doing. We are committed to helping people get to a point where they need to be, and keeping these costs low enough that it doesn't just turn into another one of the predators, that people are not negatively taking advantage of us. It'd be really easy for us to throw off the guardrails and go, hey, you use it as much as you want, and it's $3 today if you want it today, or $2 if you want it tomorrow. And heck, we could make $20-$30 a month off of every one of our users, and I would not be able to sleep a wink at night.
Right.
Because I don't want to take advantage of people. I don't want to become another one of the predators. And so we as a company collectively have said, we're willing to invest in the long term, that we're going to hit the volume of people in our user community that are going to allow us to get over some of those thresholds and get over that hump to where financial stability for us as a company. And so that's a ways out. But in the meantime, we've built just really awesome pro formas and budgets. So we know that we've got the right team in place, the right investors behind us, and the way that we can go out and scale this business appropriately.
Yeah. Okay. Switching gears. And we're going to keep this short and sweet too, but I want to make sure we get to it. So the title of the podcast is Building Birmingham Together. Because, I just love the idea that we're all doing different things, but really we're all impacting the city and making the city better, making it better for the people who live in the city, who, we can support small businesses because we have a little bit more money in our pocket. Anyways, but you're not from Birmingham. So a little twist question for you. I know you just moved here. So what has it been like to come to Birmingham, to start a company, to start a tech company? How do y'all see this? What brought you into this vision of, you probably didn't have this vision, but of building Birmingham together? What made you want to come and build your company here and make Birmingham better?
Interestingly enough, I did have some of that. So I grew up in Decatur, North Alabama. I went to school at Auburn, and I moved to Atlanta, started working as an intern in grad school for a company in Atlanta. I was there for about a decade. And we actually went through the Birmingham-bound program. And one of the reasons was when we started researching all these alternatives, in the state of Georgia, payday lending has been banned. There's about, I think, 12 or 13 states that have banned payday lending. Now they got a major issue with title loans. There's a lot of, whenever you drive, there's title loan places over in Atlanta, but they don't have payday lending. And when we started researching, we saw how predatory the rates are in the state of Alabama, 456%. We said, hey, that could be a good place to go and sit down and really impact the community that you're in. Right. And so we actually went through the Birmingham-bound program. We spent a day or two over here and meeting all sorts of people in the tech ecosystem, and we got done. And one of my co-founders, who lives in Atlanta, we've got a small office up in Alpharetta, and he said, "There's no reason that we should not start this company and headquarter it in Birmingham." And so we made our headquarters here, and my family and I moved here, and we love it. I'll tell you, there's a couple things about Birmingham that I've found very different from other cities. I obviously lived in Atlanta and worked there for a long time. I've worked in Boston, worked in LA, and I've traveled all over the country. I had a job where I was all over the country. I built a partnership program, like 225 companies all over the US. And so I've been all over. One of the things that I love about Birmingham is the accessibility. Now, I'm not just talking about like, well, I live at home when it takes me 10 minutes to get downtown.
Yeah.
Like,
which is really great.
It's really nice.
Really nice.
when I was in Atlanta from Roswell to my Austin
Oh,
Buckhead, so it would take me an hour. And so
no.
I got a lot of my life back. So geographical accessibility is nice, but the accessibility to people. I mean,
Right.
when we came through Birmingham bound, we met a ton of people here as we were going through it. So Brittany Somerville and Joanne Patterson with Birmingham bound brought us in. We got time that day with Dave Gray. We got that time that day with John Nugent from the Birmingham Business Alliance. We had time with Matt Hoddle and Nikki Millsap. They came in and talked about kind of this ecosystem. We spent some time at Forge. We who were some of the other people that we met with that day? JG Carver from ITAC came in, who's actually a customer of ours now, which was really cool. Yeah, so they came, like, we met him and we started talking. They're like, we should offer this. Like, yeah, you should. And so all that, and then as once we got here and got settled in, I'd shoot people notes on LinkedIn or emails, and people like Shay Gunn, Liz Farrow.
Yeah.
All these people that have just been wildly successful and are wise beyond their years. And they would take time to sit down and have lunch with me or coffee with me and give me insights and suggestions. I mean, Liz and Shagan are on our advisory board.
Oh, wow.
One of my favorite people in the world, Sanjay Singh, is on our advisory board. Sanjay is one of the guys that I've met, and we get together frequently. And so all this to say, and this is a really long way of saying it, this city has, from a tech ecosystem perspective, has an open door policy, and I love it. Like if I want to, I could text Bill Smith right now and ask him a question, and he would get back to me. It's not like he's random. I know him, right? But he's going to respond to me because he wants to help build this city. Right. Same thing with Shagan, same thing with Liz, with Sanjay, with Mazi, with all these people in town that are building these really awesome companies. And I had lunch last week with Tony Somerville from Fleetio. And we sat down and we were bouncing ideas off of each other. And those are the kind of things that when people here in this city see other companies and other entrepreneurs, and they know what it's been like. Just this morning, 9 a.m., I had an entrepreneur from in town that came in and sat down here for 45 minutes, and we talked about fundraising strategies. We talked about how to structure certain things, like all sorts of, because I viewed that as, hey, this is 45 minutes of my day that I can invest back into this community.
Right.
I don't get anything for that. They're not paying me. I don't get any equity. I'm doing that because I want to help others because of the things that I've been through. And you know what? Matter of fact, one of the things that I helped that person with was something that in a previous life we had a major issue, like a major legal issue with at a previous company. And I go, hey, by the way, you should think about this because here's what I ran into. That's the kind of thing that we as a community do. Yeah. And I don't want to say that like Boston, LA, Atlanta don't do that, because I can't say that they don't, but I can say it's harder. And I can say that it's a lot more crowded and it's a lot more noisy. And so you come to a city like this where there's some really awesome companies, and there's some people that really care about not just building awesome companies, but building an awesome community. That's what I love about Birmingham. Yeah.
I think two takeaways from what you just said that I have found to be true as well is, one, I haven't done business in other cities, but there is just a true desire for people to succeed. Right. And the second takeaway from what you just said, on both sides, one, like there's some awesome people here. Really take advantage of getting to know them and the help, but also when you're in a position where you can give that help as well, like being generous with your time too, and help growing up other leaders is just what makes Birmingham pretty awesome.
Right. I think that if you're doing your job right as a entrepreneur and as somebody who cares about this community, you won't ever see the actual impact you have. Yeah. And the reason being is because it's the trickle down, right? It's you help people, they help other people, and that's a hard thing to wrap your head around. And I've had people in the past, and as you get busier, like it's harder for me to just pop out at 10 and go get coffee with somebody. I don't do that anymore. If I'm meeting with people, I do breakfast meetings. I do carpool with my kids. I drop them off at 7:30 and I go, hey, I got like 45 minutes from 7:45 to 8:30. If you want to meet for breakfast, like, here's my path. If you want to meet anywhere along there, like, let's do it. Right. And, or we're at the depot, Crestline Bagel, like, hey, I got 30 minutes at lunch. Like, if you want to meet for lunch, like, let's do it. And that's one of the things that I could very easily not do. But I feel like being able to answer questions, be there to support people, and hopefully help in some way. It may be a go do this, or maybe hey, definitely don't do this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I was going through college, and I thought I wanted to be a financial advisor, and I got in, I was like in finance class, and I'm going, gosh, I don't want to be a financial advisor. What am I doing? I got a finance degree. And fortunately I made it into grad school, and I was like, okay, good. I can go do something else. But I just kept marking things off that I didn't want to be. Well, I don't think I want to be that. I thought I want to be a hospital administrator. I went and interned at a hospital, and then I go, well, I don't want to do that. I marked that off, right? But it all kind of kept leading to what I should do and what I wanted to do. And so a lot of it is you can help people, and you can give them suggestions and recommendations on things that they shouldn't do, or things that cautionary tales, which is really easy to do in a 30 or 45-minute coffee or breakfast meeting. So
that's awesome. Okay, 2 quick questions, like rapid fire. Just give us your answer. One, is there a book that you've read that's impacted how you do business or lead a team? Or
my favorite business book is The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. If you haven't read it, it is incredible. Ben Horowitz, Andreessen Horowitz, previously he had a company called Single Ops, and he built it up. It was on the brink of bankruptcy 3 times, and had to do layoffs, had to like restructure the company, like went through all the ups and downs, and then had a $1.7 billion exit to HP, I think, and took the proceeds, started one of the best VC firms in the world. I got more out of that book. I probably read it, or now I think I switched to just Audible. I'll do Audible with it. And I probably read that or listen to it at least once a year. It's
okay.
Great.
All right. Do you have any podcast, 1 or 2, that you like to listen to?
I bounce around on podcasts. I like, I kind of just go in and pick the ones that I wanted, that I really like. Like I'll listen to Joe Rogan podcast. I do Ed Milet. I like Tony Robbins podcast, and then the Lewis Howes, blanking on what the School of Greatness. His is really good. I like that. And then a really good business one is Masters of Scale by Reid Hoffman. So I kind of just go in and look for people that I want to learn more from, and listen to those. But yeah, those are my favorites.
Okay. This is a new one. And especially because you're new to Birmingham, what's your favorite Birmingham restaurant so far?
It's a slam dunk for me. Pizzeria GM in West Homewood's my favorite spot.
Yeah. Well, it's close to y'all too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's close, and we go there all the time. I should probably just open a tab. But that's more like I can, we can take the family and my kids will sit outside on the patio. Like nicer restaurants like date night. My wife and I we love Hot and Hot. So we'll do that. And then we just went to Helen for the first time, which was really good.
We did too.
It's so good. And it's like right down from you. That's perfect.
I know.
Yeah. So we'll be going back there. I used to go to Spring House when Rob was there, and so I love his food, and so we'll be going back there.
Yep. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today on Building Birmingham Together, and thank you for your commitment to giving people access to funds and really protecting them from so much damage that, only seems like the only alternative. So thank you for the work that you're doing, for your passion, what you're continuing to do, and doing it here in Birmingham. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, I'll see you soon.
See ya.
Bye.